everyone. This is my ed talk. Sorry. So this is my why statement. It's to advocate structurally so that students have increased educational opportunities. So that's kind of like the very basic form of what I want to do with my capstone project. And so these are my two different hows that I'm kind of planning. I wanted to split it up because there are two different ideas that I'm kind of working on, and I just wanted to include talking about both of them and how they kind of connect to the why. So my first one, my how part one, is to redistribute funds on a middle school level. That way we can try and encourage students to be able to start learning foreign languages sooner. And so I feel like that connects to my why, because it's a way that we're going to be redistributing things structurally so that these students can have more learning opportunities. And it's basically the same idea with my how part two, which is to create kind of an extra elective for elementary schoolers, where they'll be able to learn a little bit of a different curriculum that's more based around things that they need to know for life, and things that are more along the lines of like sexual education, sexuality, morals, like all of those topics. I kind of want to include that and have students learning those sooner. And so I feel like that connects with my why, because it really is opening up learning opportunities that they wouldn't have maybe even until middle school or on to high school. So what would a success look like for all of these different spheres? So on a middle school sphere, I really want us to see additional teaching positions where they would be necessary. So what I'm thinking here is Spanish, I believe, has a teacher at both school. But for French, there's one teacher that alternates back and forth between the two middle schools. So that would be a position that we would most likely fill. And then that extra day that both of them would have would be when they could teach an additional grade level. And then we also don't teach German at all on a middle school level. And I feel like in bringing an extra year, we should definitely try and teach German in middle school, even if we only get to do it for 8th graders. I feel like it would be an interesting proposition. So that also means that there might be curriculum adjustment. When I was talking to my mentor, who I'll talk about later, he mentioned that we really need to focus on how it'll change and shift the curriculum, because we'll have a lot more time. And so we might want to focus less on like story-driven stuff to begin with, and focus more on just getting all of the ideas of being in a different language like truly settled, because that's not something that we have enough time for to begin with. So you kind of like focus on the finer details later when it's something important to learn first. And on an elementary level, I really want to see an adoption of an additional elective class, because I know that some elementary schools right now have an additional one other than just the regular PE, library, gym, art, all of that stuff. But a lot of them don't. The one that I used to go to at least doesn't have anything like that. So I feel like we would first need to try and get that. And then additionally, I would want curriculum to be approved by schools, parents, and the district, because the surface matter or the curriculum matter is definitely not something that I feel like every person is going to be super supportive of. They might be a little bit more like conservative and not want their students to be learning about this stuff, but we're going to try and get it approved if we can. And when it comes to me, I want to try and get to chill with young kids. That's what a success would look like there, because I really like kids and I want to be able to spend more time there. But I also want to learn some more French, and I feel like doing this project would just encourage me to do that. And I really want to explore these topics a little bit more on my own, because I feel like once you try to teach something to someone, you look at it in a completely different way. And so to create a curriculum that's based on these topics, I might be able to grow from that too, so that would be a success. And when it comes to college, I really just want this to be an experience that I'll be able to take and maybe implement at a different time, and at least get into college. That's a big hope. That's a success for the entire year. So some of my possible mentors, these are kind of for my two different hows. My first one is Brayden Mendenhall. He's the French teacher here at Ben Davis. He's a big advocate for the French language, and he does tons of things regarding French. He's about to go teach in France, color guard. So that's really exciting. And I also have Nancy Jenna Temple. That was my librarian when I was in elementary school. And she really works really hard for the school that I went to for elementary, because she does all of these different programs. Instead of just being like the librarian where you come pick out books and she helps you find books, she actually like had us do things. We would learn how to type. We would learn about like different, social issues and stuff, depression and everything. And so I feel like she'll be really instrumental if I go down the path of the elementary school how. So these are some of the skills that I think that are necessary for this entire project, no matter which one I undergo. First off, public speaking. I feel like it's always important, but especially if I'm going to be talking to school board members, trying to figure out financial stuff, I need to be comfortable speaking in front of people. And additionally, I need to know how to support my own side and debate with people, try and argue what I think is right and to get them to see my point. And then also, I kind of need to find a skill of understanding financial documents, because if we're going to be trying to make new programs in schools, then money's going to be involved, whether we like that or not. So I need to figure out how to read them, that way I can figure out how to make it make sense financially. And there's also like the regular critical solving of problems. If problems arise, I want to be able to solve them. But then also speaking French. I feel like speaking another language is important to know how to do if I'm going to be saying that we should teach kids how to speak another language. And so these are a few of the things that I think are the most necessary funding. They're very basic, but if we have more paid positions in language courses, then we'll definitely need their salaries. We can't just hire on volunteer teachers. They wouldn't like that. And additionally, if we do something on the elementary school level where we teach kids more things, I feel like we would need to have books or other materials that would kind of help them understand, because in general, we use those for elementary school kids either way. And especially when it comes to difficult topics that they might not understand or have heard yet, it's really important to have useful materials. And then finally, gas costs, because if we end up implementing this sometime this year, then I'll probably be driving back and forth trying to help out a lot. And a lot of these elementary schools are actually pretty far away, so that would be just like another smaller, low-level funding thing that would be necessary. So these are a few of my concerns and some limitations that might arise. So when it comes to the middle school level, it's a lot of money to try and figure out what to do, and it's entirely different classes. So there's a lot of things that would be changing, a lot of people that would be involved, and I feel like there's going to be a lot of pushback from people on the school board, because this is such like a big undertaking to even consider when we barely have a lot of different other changes that are important going on. To think of this first, I feel like that'll be a little bit difficult. And when it comes to the elementary school level, like I said before, it's definitely more of like a progressive idea to try and teach children these things. So I feel like whether it be parents or teachers, somebody isn't gonna like it and somebody's gonna need to be convinced. And so I feel like that's kind of a limitation there. And so when we come to the final product, there's two main things that I want to be able to show off, have like a paper copy of, and they're both curriculum guides. And the first one is for on the middle school level of the redistribution of classes when you add on an additional year of learning a language, because all of the different classes might be affected a little bit. At least they'll be pushed forward, if not changed a little bit more than that, because when you learn earlier, it's easier to learn and things like that. And then when it comes to the elementary level, I feel like we need a curriculum guide for that. And whether or not we started this year, we have to push it on to next year to try and get it going. We need to have something to show that like we actually have ideas, we have plans, we have books and different materials for the students to read, and like worksheets to be able to have them better understand it. So these are my final products, and that's all.